representing. It's time. Yes, that's right. The sequel is coming tomorrow, and we're going to talk about the spoiler-free right now. Let's get into it. What's up, guys, and welcome back to Beyond the Void. My name is Alex, and today we're doing a spoiler-free review, baby, of Street Trash, the requel sequel. Not a remake, by the way. So for those of you who are like, it better be as good as the remake, you know, it's fine. This is a sequel. It doesn't really have that much connective tissue to the first one, other than the fact that the Viper, the liquid that caused people to melt in the first movie. Now, I'm going to give you kind of a rundown of what I thought of the first movie so that it will make more sense and give context to this review, because I think it's important to do. But, you know, I'll try to put some timestamps down where I get a little bit more into just the movie, the new movie itself, but I think it's important. So the original Street Trash came out years ago, made by a bunch of art and special effects guys who were going to school, trying to get their feet wet in anything they could to make movies anywhere. And they were making movies, I believe it was like New Jersey, New York. I know that there was a couple of films that came out around this time that the guys that created Street Trash were connected to, that did other films for that northeastern kind of area. These were not Hollywood films, and they showed their skills, because the original Street Trash from 1987 was a practical effects, like, amazing masterpiece for an indie film. In fact, it kind of is what the film is about, if it wasn't for some of the weird exploitative nature of the movie, being that there's homeless. There's a couple of scenes in the movie that really push the boundaries, including a junkyard with a woman and a guy who finds that woman is pretty gross. They did a lot with it, and it was funny. It was obscene, it was gross, and there was just a lot about it that was memorable, including a scene with a bunch of homeless people playing catch with a human penis. So yeah, there was a lot on offer at this buffet of Street Trash in 1987. I've been a fan, obviously. I have multiple different shirts. I own the movie. I've been a huge fan of it for many, many, many years. Now, did I ever think that this was going to be as good as the original? No. Before I saw it, I had my expectations on, hey, I just want to see more of this. You know, lower your expectations a little bit, because, you know, it's going to be next to impossible to recreate the magic of Street Trash 1987, guys. But just know that the people who actually made the original Street Trash, the people who produced it and believed in it, Roy Frumkis, J. Michael Murrow, they put all the work into the original movie, saw Fried Barry on the drive-in, and said, hey, that's our guy. And I think if you watch Fried Barry, which I highly recommend you check out, watch Street Trash if you haven't seen it, and then watch this sequel, requel, as they're calling it. That said, you know, those are some pretty tall shoes to fill. And Ryan Coogler, I think, was the right guy for the job. If you watch Fried Barry, you can instantly see the parallels that are on display. You got the exploitation, the gross out factor, the humor, practical effects that were in the movie. It all just kind of feels like a Street Trash side movie. Like it was like in the same universe, but it was about an alien, you know, taking over a guy's body and going on an adventure. Now, this movie, Street Trash 2024, the sequel, the requel, is a different story, and it has a lot more story to it. It even has heroes in it. If you remember the original Street Trash, there wasn't really heroes in the movie. There was just a lot of following a lot of different people from all over the place, whether it be a homeless person, the junkyard owner, like the cops, like you just never knew who you were following, and there was all these different stories going on at one time. They kind of do away with that a little bit and kind of focus on one ragtag group of homeless people who are basically out to fight for their survival when a corporation has basically made it known that they're out to destroy every single homeless person in South Africa by using the Viper mix that they used in the bottle that melted everybody, again in a different way to clean up the streets. It has a real message to this one about, you know, homelessness, and the corporations have kind of put a stranglehold on the population and even made people who weren't homeless. And so there's different layers of it. You get a new character that is kind of basically pushed out by the corporations, and some of the homeless people in the area basically come to her rescue while some other guys are like picking on her. And she's actually pretty tough herself, and she meets this ragtag group of people, Ronald saving her, Chef, who's kind of like the leader and the guy who basically runs the camp and tries to keep everybody safe. There's a couple of twins who are huge drug addicts. Gary Green is back, you know, Fried Barry. He's back in the picture, and he's the muscle of the group. Not too bright, a little lost. He's crazy, in other words, and he has an imaginary friend that is probably one of the funniest things in the movie. Ronald, by the way, is like a vet, and he's the one that can kind of fight. So he's the one that kind of gets them to go up against the corporation and sort of attack them. It's not just homeless people, you know, falling ill to the Viper by bottle, but also this new methods that they're doing, and you know, the corporations getting mutilated. There is a lot of gore on display in this movie. It gets kicked off pretty quick too. There are just so many different people exploding, melting, popping, bubbling up, ripping their faces off. There is just a ton of things going on. Sometimes they're obligatory, sometimes they're off camera, sometimes it's like right there. There's just a myriad of different ways that people go out with this stuff. And there's also new ways that they're introducing this sort of chemical agent that is causing people to, you know, blow up. But it's not just drinking the Viper, like I said, it's all kinds of different methods, and they're using them against everyone. Like, everyone is gonna get their just desserts in this movie, trust me. And the cast is just decimated, and in very creative ways that I think actually work pretty well in this movie. I don't know if it's comparable to the original or not. It's definitely in some cases better, in some cases different. So despite what you think of the story, the characters, the direction that this movie went, the setting, whatever, I mean, you came for the gore, right? And you're gonna get plenty of that. So that's really the most important part. But there are definitely areas in the film that I think add a little bit of something to each of the gore moments, to the characters and everything. And there are some pretty gross out moments in the movie, of course. One involving a foot that I was just like, ugh, oh, that was nasty. But overall, I think the movie was kind of funny, and you know, it wavers here and there in different areas. And I don't know if it's just the initial shock of watching a new movie called Street Trash and my mind sort of constantly going back and forth over the original one. I also want to mention that the music in this, while sometimes it works, sometimes I wasn't really grooving with it. It's done by Hazer, who he used in Fried Barry as well, which I do like, by the way. But it just, I don't know, there was moments of it that it felt like it needed like its own sort of like ominous, darker synthy feel to it. Like it almost clashed with it, and maybe that's just my own personal thing. It's a super minor gripe. They do, however, have a Street Trash song for this movie that Chef, the guy who plays Chef in the movie, Joe Vaz, actually wrote and helped make somehow with some other people. So that's pretty cool. I like that they added that in there. So there's that. But, you know, things are going to be a little different here and there. This may be one to try to treat just as its own standalone thing and just kind of try to focus on that instead of trying to compare it so much. I personally liked it. I wasn't over the moon about it. It doesn't always connect all the dots, but overall, I think is a more fun experience than I was expecting. And, you know, is it as good as like the original? No, it's not. Is it as good as Fried Barry? I am kind of a fan of Fried Barry. I actually think that Fried Barry kind of edges this one out a little bit more, and I was kind of hoping to see more Fried Barry in Street Trash, to be honest with you, than I think I got. There are going to be some things in it that are ridiculous, that are going to have terrible dialogue and ridiculous moments in it, but that's kind of how the original one was. It's just up to interpretation for the person who made it to make it into their own bit of ridiculousness. But there are moments of awesomeness in this movie that has a little bit of a flaw to it here and there. But I think, you know, for a movie that we're retouching up 30 years later, it's always going to be different than the original was. Overall, I would say this is about a 6.5 out of 10 for Street Trash. You're going to want to lower your expectations a little bit and just have some fun, guys. Like, not everything's got to be a 10 out of 10. Not everything's got to beat the original, you know? I'm just glad to see more deaths and, you know, melty people like I saw in the first one. And to be somewhat connected to that is pretty awesome in my book. And I think Ryan and the team did a good job. There are elements I love. There are elements that kind of weren't so great. It's a mixed bag of a lot of different things, but overall, I think my experience got better as I was watching it than right off the bat. In the beginning of the movie, I was kind of struggling with how I felt about the movie until I just let go and let the movie display all the wonderful gore that you're going to get in this film. If you're not a gore fan, I mean, that's all I have to say about the movie. I will be interviewing Ryan Kruger in the future here in the next couple of days, and then I'll put out the interview for you guys, of course. But yeah, I enjoyed this. I think it's worth a watch for yourself to see kind of where you land, because I know right now there are going to be people all over the map on this one. One thing's for sure, I'm going to be picking up a copy from Vinegar Syndrome. I hope they have a ton of extras in this, because the last release from the original was so amazing. One of my favorite documentaries ever made is the Street Trash documentary on that. So I really hope they give all the bells and whistles for that release. The Vinegar Syndrome was one of the people that helped produce this movie, and also SCREAMBOX. So thank all of you for allowing me to watch this movie. You guys rock. I love you. Make sure you send me more movies in the future so I can review them. Also, if you want to watch this movie, you can watch it tomorrow, the 19th of November, to check out on SCREAMBOX. They have a really great streaming service that have been bringing a lot of originals to your eyes for you to check out for horror movies. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below of Street Trash, the new movie, your expectations. Are you able to separate them? All of that stuff down in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like and subscribe button. Make sure you hit that little bell notification to let you know when the new interview from Ryan Kruger, the director, is coming out, because that'll be coming out soon too. Thanks for coming by, and as always, long live the void.